In this Gold Belt video, I'm going to show how to test a rich client application in Java. This particular application, I'm just pulling up the test existing functionality code. This is using Swing as a part of Java. So it's the particular front-end framework that we're using, the rich client application framework. There are others. JavaFX is another very popular front-end framework. The approach is generally similar, but you'll have to do some specifics in terms of how the actual API works with JavaFX if you use that one. Let's go ahead and navigate in. So we'll start off with the source. Let's go into main. App.java is our main entry point. We'll notice in public static void main, we're creating a new app and setting it to visible. So that's the idea of what we want to do inside our test. So let's go and open up our test real quick. Let me rename this. We'll call this train shipment test. And let's format this a little bit, clear up some of these comments that we don't need. Excellent. And now let's rename this to train shipment. We'll just call this success. All right, so our goal here is to, and I'll just change this to stars so we can use all those. Our goal here is to be able to execute and load up the application and execute it as though we're going through the UI, simulating the user actually clicking links or navigating through reading the screen. So that's the idea through this. There are certainly other ways to test rich client applications, but in our way, this is kind of the hardest way to do it. And so that's why I wanted to go through this really fast. There are times when things are so complicated in the application we get that they have very little choice other than to test directly through the UI. So with this, what we basically need to do is just start off by creating the app. So we'll say app, and we're going to pull this in, app equals new app, and now we'll say app.setVisible. So this is exactly what we were doing in main. We're just saying app.setVisible. Now I'm holding on to app so that I can use that. We're going to need to use that here in a little bit. But we'll just set it to visible, and let's just run the test and see if we get an error first. Give it a moment. All right, so no errors. Everything seemed to pass. It did flash up very quickly. I don't know if you could see that from the video. It was really, really fast, but the app actually showed up. So now that showed up, what we want to do now is see if we can get the data. Now that it loads up, it should load automatically from the database. We want to get the data, the rows, from basically the structure here. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do this. You could theoretically go through, so looking at how this thing is created, you could go through and find the scroll pane and find the shipment table under that. That's certainly a way to go. It's very, very difficult to do. So what I would recommend instead is on your app, actually create a method that exposes that table for us as we need to. So this is only going to be used for the test, but it is a way to test this out. So what we'll do is say JTable, so we'll need to import that in, and we'll call this it's the shipment table. Yep, shipment table here equals app.getShipment table. So we're going to request that the app give this back to us. So let's go ahead and create this method now. Move down here. There we go, alphabetically. So this will be public, JTable, getShipment table. AI is helping me out. That's exactly right. So we'll simply return the table out. This isn't necessarily something you'd want to do in real world code and production code, but again, we're limited in what we can do for testing. We have to get that table. This is probably the easiest way to go about it. So this is going to give us that table, and now from that, I can do some assertions. So I can say assert, let's say assert true. Let's say there's at least one row. So we'll say shipment table, get row count greater than 0. All right, so let's run this test now. It takes a few seconds to load up. All right, so we have at least one row. Let's try to see if there are 3 rows. So we'll assume that it goes to the database and gets 3 records because we kind of want to force a failure to see if it's actually working. All right, so that did fail. We'll notice that it said it's false. Let's change this to assert equals just so we can see what the actual values are. It wants the actual last. Let me change the order. All right, let's run this test again. All right, so it's actually getting 1 row. We were expecting 3. So we're in good shape. We now have the ability to get the data out of there. We can interrogate over those rows if we wanted to. We can look at the columns and the cells and see what the actual records are, the values are. So we now have that ability, and that's just exploring the Swing API. So that'll be some more internet searches for you. But we have set it up where we're actually loading up the application, getting the information out of it, and seeing what's going on. So let's do one more thing. This will be part of the add new functionality. Let's say we want to be able to click a button or a link. So again, I could try to find that button or link through the components, try to find the child component and do it that way. It is probably easier to just create a method here that will do the click for me. So let's just say, I want to say app.click refresh button. I think that seems good. So click refresh button, we'll go ahead and create a method here, public void click refresh button. And there's a few different ways to do this as well. So let's go to our actual JButton object. This is a Swing object. It has a do click. So that's one way to go. Another thing we could go, if we look at the refresh button, its action listener is this functionality here. So the other thing I could do is just call refresh train shipment view, because that's all it's doing. So I could call that instead. So I could just say this dot refresh train shipment view. Either will work. There's really not a right and wrong. It just depends on what you're trying to do. In this particular case, since I can do the click directly, I kind of like that because it actually is doing a click. That way, if we do add some new logic here, it's doing the full implementation. But a few different ways to go on that. So again, you can just call it to do click, or you can reproduce what it's doing in the click event handler directly. Do one of these, don't do both, but those are two different ways to go about that. But again, we're just opening up a public method into the test so that we can simulate the click event. That concludes.